Hello my gorgeous makeup loving friends, I hope you're having a fantastic day and a great start to your weekend. My name is Teresa and I love all things makeup, beauty and skincare, so on the weekends I like to hang out with you guys and talk about the newest releases in that category. Last week I had a live with the fabulous Joe, so thank you to everyone who joined us at that time, and also a massive thank you to everyone who watched later. I so appreciate it. You guys know the deal. There's usually a lot of releases every week and frankly I don't want to go through them, so you guys tag me, DM me, email me with stuff that you think is worth talking about. So massive thank you to everyone who has done that. Your names are being displayed right now. You're fabulous. I need you. I need you. That sounds really weird. Massive thank you as always to my YouTube community members. I need to do a live with you guys at some point so that you can see the kittens. They are ridiculous, and quite frankly I think you should be thanking me for essentially dragging myself away from their tiny cute kittenness to be with you guys. In terms of like a general update, Cece hates them, Darcy's terrified of them. So it's all going incredibly well. You know the general drill though, we have to stay hydrated. I of course have a mug of tea because it's very late at night and I must try to stay awake. Not that tea really has that effect on me, it's more likely to make me quite sleepy. Anyways, I have my mug du jour and look at how cute it is. Little dog, and then around the front, ha ha ha, it's a dog with a kitten on top of it and it says cuddles please, and I can't because it's so fucking adorable. And yeah, you're right, it is a Tesco mug. Oh, weird thing to say, but I know that some of you guys watch this while you're having coffee, tea, etc. in the morning, and this is going to sound really weird, but I'd love it if you show me your mug du jour when you're watching, because I just think it would be fun. But we have a few things to talk about. The first is actually there's quite a bit of like news when it comes to makeup, and I know I really wanted to talk about this because it's an Irish brand. It's called Cosmetics. They've had a few kind of little scandals before. One was that they had done a palette with Carey MUA, you know, the one who owns Cash Beauty, and I think it was called the Bible or Urban Bible or something like that. And when they went to remake it, they took her name off of it and she wasn't getting any more of like the proceeds of it, which was really shitty considering she had helped to make that. So they had kind of shown themselves to be a little bit shady. But what happened then was that one of their palettes, it was specifically the Peach Dreams palette, was tested and it was found to have levels of arsenic in it, which then was like extremely worrying. Now they told what sort of batch numbers were involved, etc. They said it wasn't a big deal. I'm going to show you the receipt. That's a really shitty way of putting it, but you know, I'm going to put up the information on it. So what actually occurred then was that Boots, who stock Cosmetics here in Ireland, not only did they get rid of that palette, but they got rid of every single Sosu product, which I think is extremely interesting and signals something bigger to me, because they had to like recall that palette due to a warning from the EU's Rapid Exchange of Information System, the RAPEX. It's just very interesting. And then basically Sosu Cosmetics launched this particular statement basically being like, oh yeah, like it's inaccurately referenced and reported to say that it was recalled and not withdrawn. And it's like, okay, other places have withdrawn it though, like, you know, they like or have recalled it, so like maybe you should be recalling it. It seems very like, I don't know. Definitely I think it's going to signal a loss of confidence in the brand. It sucks because obviously it's an Irish brand. It's not one that I've really used. I have like one or two palettes that actually family members got for me, and they're not really my jam. I've just kept them out of sentimental reasons. But like, what a way to deal with that, to be like, well actually we withdrew it, it wasn't recalled. And I was like, should you not like be apologizing? Because I saw comments of people being like, I was wearing that eyeshadow palette when I was pregnant, and it's like, yeah, that's dangerous. Like, what are you doing? Absolute nonsense, quite frankly. I personally feel like it's not an appropriate sort of response. Feel free to disagree. That is just what I think. Then I saw this over on Beauty Guru Chatter over on Reddit, and I thought this was really interesting. They shared an article that was over on Daily Mail, and I don't tend to talk about P. Louise that much simply because I don't find it very interesting, and I don't like the mix of childishness and then the weird links with like sexualized adult stuff. Like, it's a bit like Two-Faced, you know? Like, they had a palette I think that was called something like Between the Sheets or something like that, and I just think that's a bit weird, you know? But basically what happened happened was, during the summer, she sold tickets to Pinkmas for £80, which is not inexpensive, and basically said, yeah, we're going to have this whole thing happening, and you know, it's going to be this amazing glamorous affair. And I'm gonna read you out bits from the Daily Mail thing. Basically, they had said that this was going to be going on from December 1st to January 4th, and it was set to be complete with a pink ice rink, pantomime performances, and a Santa's grotto. So there was quite a few people who actually ended up buying that for things like their kids, because weirdly P. Louise has become kind of a kids brand. Don't understand it. She then went on to say, guided by the P. Louise elves, we'll be taking you on a journey through the Pinkmas forest and festive factory, featuring 3 immersive zones: Mrs. Claus's kitchen, the pink workshop, and the Post Me Pretty room. So people got some of the early bird passes that came out in June, and of course people were super excited about it. But here's the thing. They had said that it was going to be held inside the Trafford Palazzo store. They were told that the shop opening had been delayed and that the event would be held at an upgraded location at Barton Dock Road in Trafford City, near to the shopping centre. Now that's not a massive issue, but it does kind of send up a few kind of red flags. And then last week, or a little bit before that, because I'm coming to this late, the event was suddenly cancelled altogether. Williams wrote on Instagram on Tuesday that she was devastated at having to call off Pinkmas, despite the event being almost fully built due to issues with the licensing process. But here's the thing, if you know you're doing an event, you get the license before you even go and sell the tickets. I'm not even involved in that, and I know that much. However, when the Daily Mail visited Barton Dock Road this week, and the apparently upgraded location certainly didn't look fully built. So not only did she fuck up in terms of, you know, not getting the licensing, but she's out and out lying about the extent that they had gotten to it. And I'm going to show you some of the pictures the Daily Mail actually provided. They said, in the middle of a vast concrete slab, the Pinkmas site was covered with hundreds of old tyres, portaloos, piles of construction supplies, and stacks of unused fences. I can now reveal that Williams sold tickets to her highly anticipated event before applying for any planning permission at all. Trafford Council became aware that work was underway only on October 16th. They left it properly last minute, didn't even think to go for planning, and said before any planning consent, building regulations or licensing application had been submitted. So they had started to try to do work on it before even applying for the thing, which is fucking wild to me. Which then contradicted Williams's claim that the licensing process was to blame for the cancellation. Kind of is, but isn't, if you know what I mean. One source told me the council came by and realised what Paige was doing and told her to stop going ahead with her Pinkmas. She didn't have permission and the place is a building site. No one has done anything on that land for years, and that's why it wouldn't have worked to have a load of people, especially kids there. Completely unsafe. Council officers approached P. Louise to inform the company of the need to apply for a licence and to seek other related approvals. So it's not like they shut her down either. They were like, you're gonna have to do this through the proper channels. They went on to submit a licensing application on October 22nd. This is several months after they had sold early bird tickets, right? You also have to remember that within that period of time, there's a lot of people who would be coming to that place from elsewhere. So they'd be booking hotels, they'd be booking maybe trains, buses, etc. And that is not refundable, right? So people aren't just out that £80, or even maybe more if they bought like several tickets per family, etc. You're talking about maybe people being out hundreds of pounds, which is absolutely gross. A spokesman for P. Louise said, we acknowledge that we underestimated the complexities involved in the planning and licensing process. Now, it doesn't sound like you underestimated it. It sounds like you thought that you could just do whatever the fuck you felt like and that nobody would say anything to you, because you have people up your arse saying that you're amazing and you can do no wrong. No, that is not reality. There are rules and everyone has to comply with it. Just because you're a multi-millionaire doesn't mean that you can just do your own thing. It's wild. They said, we take full responsibility for that oversight. That's not an oversight. Like, that's way too weak of a word for that. Since the cancellation, we've been working closely with the relevant authorities to ensure all future projects are fully compliant from the outset. Cool, but what about the people who've been screwed over? Like, they're out of money, like they're out of pocket. We will learn from this experience and look forward to bringing the spirit of Pinkmas back, brighter, better and more magical than ever before. On Instagram, Paige claimed that all customers will be contacted and will receive a refund. But like I said, that's only the £80 or whatever that they paid for those tickets, but it's also like their accommodation and their travel. I personally feel, and quite a few people seem to be saying this, this is just a really bad look for the brand. And when you couple that with things like their somewhat predatory nature on TikTok, the fact that they're really targeting young audiences, I feel like this is going to put a very sour taste in quite a few people's mouths. Like, I haven't been a massive fan of Louise. I get like some things every so often if something really is interesting to me. But this is just like gross behaviour. I truly don't understand it. But I know that this kind of hit the stories over in the UK, but not everyone would necessarily have heard of it. So I thought it was important to put out there. I just think it's kind of entitled behaviour and I don't love it. And that kind of moves us on to the next thing, right? Sephora just in the last week put out their Christmas ad and it featured Mariah Carey, and let's just say it hasn't gone down well. The long and the short of it is essentially Mariah comes in and is like, it's time, and starts doing her little trill, but then is annoyed that the help, because it's the elf, has stolen her makeup because of poor working conditions and is going to sell the makeup for elf therapy. And then she is like, I'm turning you into a snowman. This is not the best look for things right now. If you know anything about what's going on in America, because this is an American ad, they're into day 30 something of the government shutdown. People have lost their SNAP benefits, so people are literally starving. They're going to go without food, and it seems that certain parties are using that as a bargaining chip. And personally, whenever a power is using the starvation of people as some sort of a wielding agent, it's smacks of colonialism, and I personally don't love it. Maybe it's just because, you know, you look at the history of the Irish people, that's kind of how we were treated. But you're also saying that because of the lockdown, people they don't have a job to go to, or they have a job to go to, and they are meant to go to those jobs, like TSA agents, people who are monitoring airplanes, etc. But they're not being paid, right? And the joke is like, oh, well, you know, workers shouldn't go and picket, or it's so strange. It's coming off like very unaware of where people are coming from. And I know there's been a lot of talk, and I know I'm not American, I'm Irish, but I try to keep up with American news because everything that happens there affects us. But I know there has been a lot of talk about boycotting brands and also not purchasing things through Cyber Monday, blah, 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 because a lot of these brands have been pivotal in bringing in the current government. For example, it's come to light that Sephora put quite a bit of money in towards Trump's presidential campaign. So basically, the ad is not being perceived particularly well because it seems to be making little of people's terrible working conditions, because that's what the elf is saying, like, you know, because you put us through hell last year, and then saying, oh, I'm using this to get elf therapy. Like, it's kind of trivializing mental health. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but when I saw it, I kind of went, oh, this is not the way to go. Now, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Why? None of my fucking business, right? But I thought that it is something worth discussing because it irks me when these big brands kind of try to make out like working class people or people who are on SNAP, etc. are the problem, rather than the billionaires who are hoarding all of that wealth. You don't need all of that wealth. People aren't probably going to be able to purchase things for Christmas this year, and making out like that's a massive them problem is wild to me. So yeah, it just didn't hit right for me, and it didn't hit right for quite a few people from what I saw on social media, so I'd love to know what you guys think. And now we're on to actual makeup releases, and this one is Lost Gods, and it's sort of like a re-release, but it's also technically new. You guys might have seen my advent calendar unboxing. They have now made those items that had been exclusive to the advent calendar available, so for those of you who are smart enough to kind of wait, well done. You can now cherry pick the stuff that you are interested in. Obviously it was a bit cheaper to get the advent calendar because you got all of that at a reduced price plus like some existing items that they had, but they've now made all of that available. So let me tell you what all of that is. There's the Starry Skies palette for €56.95. I actually have a Swatching Sundays video on that if you want to check that out. A Catch My Drip Jelly Drip Stick for €18.95. There's two Chill Luminators. There's one in Frostbite and one in Below Zero. They're €18.95 each. There's the Sugar Plum Liquid Love Blush for €18.95. The My Cherry Cola Liquid Love Lip Oil for €14.95. Then there's a bunch of single shadows, and they range from €9.95, there's €10.95, and then there's €12.95, depending upon the sort of formula that you're going for. There's the Cherry Frost Loose Pigment. They have the M13 Detailed Highlighter Brush for €15.95. Then to put those little single shadows in, you have a large magnetic palette for €28.95. The mini magnetic palette then is available for €16.95. And then we're getting on to more like the accessories things. There's a Cloud Mirror for €15.95. There's the Puffy Tote Bag. It's the much bigger one that everything kind of came in. That's €47.95. There's the Puffy Cosmetic Bag for €33.95. And then there's lots of different bundles. Like, for example, you can get the singles bundle that includes like the big magnetic palette and all of the singles, including the highlighters, plus the little mini palette for €103.95. I am associated with the brand. I have a code. I don't think it earns me a commission anymore. I don't know, there's been a lot of changes over there. However, the important thing is to never pay full price. So feel free to use my code Teresa. It'll get you some money off. I'm not going to talk too much about what I think of these because I already have them and I would have talked through those in terms of the advent calendar. I will say that fucking palette, Starry Skies, is absolutely stunning. I do have a thing about their eyeshadow palettes. It's part of why I kind of keep going back to Gloss Gods and being like, yes, yes, give me more, give me more. Do I think that everything is equal in terms of its interest? No, but that's just me. I will say I'm glad that I have it, but that's because I'm very strange. I personally don't love the mirror, but I'm a bit weird. I'm not really into mirrors. I know some people are really into them. But all in all, I think it was a really beautiful collection. And if you were, like I said, smart enough to not go off and get an advent calendar because of the FOMO, you can now pick it all up now. You fabulous little goose. I mean, it will end up being a bit more expensive, but I mean, if you didn't end up wanting to get doubles or duplicates of things that you already had, that's the way to go. But I do think, right, if you're trying, right, if anyone cares, for my opinion, which I assume you do, because I think so much of myself. If you have to get one thing, or if you're thinking about getting anything, make it be the Starry Skies palette. It is legitimately so beautiful. I have it right here. Like, it's on my makeup desk because I have graduation conferring tomorrow and I'm planning on using it. It's so beautiful. So beautiful. I would highly recommend that, and I think my code will get you 10% off at least. So you'll get like a £5 off, so it'll be like €51. So it's not like a bad price, and I will say the formula is excellent. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about it any further than that, but I thought it was an interesting one that it's out there. Fucking Beauty Bay, man. They're doing a lot lately, and it's giving throwing shit at the wall to see what will stick. And here's the thing, right? They had their Glide in Line shadow sticks before. They came out with 3. Now they're coming out with another 3. And you might think, yeah, Teresa, that makes sense. Kind of, except you can't buy those 3 separately. Now you might go, oh, well, surely then they're in a trio bundle. No. They're in a bundle with the other 3 existing ones. Yeah, so if you have the 3 existing ones already, you'll only be duplicating it, which is just stupid to me. Or if you're like me, I didn't have any of them. I got the little mini neutral charms, and that came with the more taupey sort of eyeshadow stick in that, so I have that already. I do like it, but why would I go off and buy this? It's wild. They have, yes, it's decent value. It's 6 of these shades for €41. But like I said, they're not sold separately, which is so strange to me. And I do actually quite like the shades of these. I don't think they're anything wild or amazing or life-changing. You know, you're not going to put them on and be like, oh my God, all of my problems are solved. But I don't think any makeup will necessarily do that. I think they're nice. You know, they somewhat bulk out the collection a little bit more. I do find it interesting that one of them is a little bit more matte in tone and the rest are very like shimmery. I truly don't understand what Beauty Bay is doing. I also thought that their little mini neutral palette, it was beautiful, but you couldn't get that by itself either. What is going on with these shadow sticks? What's going on with the original 3? Could you just not get people to take them? So you're like, here, fucking take it. It's like, stop it. Stop giving us things that we do not want. right? I still have that stupid phone charm that came with the mini neutral palette. I don't know what to do with it. I hate throwing things into a landfill, but I'm like, can I bring that down to a charity shop? Who's going to, like, the poor charity shop will then have to deal with that. Like, this is so, sorry. I'm like, Beauty Bay, you have potential. You do really good products. And then I don't know what is going on here and who you're talking to, but you need to sever contact with them because they're filling you with bad ideas. Now, I'm not saying that the shadow sticks are bad ideas. I actually think they're really great. I have shadow sticks from other brands. I have the, not Natasha Denona, I have the Danessa Myricks ones. I have some Half Magic Beauty. I've tried some ones from Laura Mercier. There was one that I really wanted to get, but they no longer make that one. But like, I think there's definitely a market for this, but why are you not selling it singularly? What the fuck is that about? So I can't even like appreciate the shades because I'm like, well, I can't even get it because I'm not going and buying duplicates and then having 2 extra shades that I never wanted in the first place when I saw that they were out. When I did see the first 3 coming out, I said, I only want one, and it's that shade Moody. And I think it was the shade Moody. I don't know. I can't remember. Yeah, it was Moody. And I was like, I'll wait and see. And then it happened to work out with the neutral palette thing. But this is just so stupid. I can't even, like, my brain won't work. And it really drives me nuts. And so every so often I'm like, oh, it seems like they're coming back, Beauty Bay. And then they go off and do something really stupid like this. And I'm like, no. Go to your room, Beauty Bay. Go to your room. You've disappointed me. So I don't even really want to talk about the colours because there's no fucking point because I can't get them because I'm not going to go off and buy a bunch of stuff that I don't need to get like 2 or 3 shades that I might like. Ridiculous. I can't. I'm annoyed. This is the episode where I'm just annoyed and I think I just need to like tone it down a little bit and just like chill out ever so slightly. I got tagged in this quite a bit. This is Enchanted Lustre Cosmetics and they're essentially coming out with 2 palettes, but I'm going to talk about the first one because I got tagged in this last week coming up to the live, I'd say the night before, but it was only the outside of the palette and I was like, I won't cover this, I'll wait to see what the story is. And it was called Shadow Daddy. And I was like, oh, that's quite a name. This had better be good. Now, I don't know much about Enchanted Lustre Cosmetics. I'm going to put it out there. It seems like they're sort of an indie brand. From what I can see, they're basically saying they hand make their stuff, which is unusual. You don't see many brands doing that. And I'm wondering how that's going to fare for them in the long term, just with things like MOCRA or MOCRA, depending upon what way you want to pronounce it. Anyways, this is the Shadow Daddy palette. It has been revealed. Do I have a price? No. Do I have a date of release? No. Do I have swatches? No. It's a whole bunch of no. I'm kind of surprised. No mattes, but you know what? I think that's kind of what indie brands do these days, is they're like, look at our interesting, shiny, multi-chromy, shimmery bits. You know what? Cool. Grand. They've shown it in nice lighting. Do I think this looks pretty? Yeah. Do I necessarily need it? No. But you guys know, I have so much makeup. I do not need more makeup, right? I don't. Maybe if like you're getting into something, it depends. I can't even really come up with an idea as to who this would be for because I don't know what the price point is, and that would inform quite a bit for me because I know that there's so many fabulous indie brands out there that will give you a palette that has mattes but also has some really interesting multi-chromes, etc. Like take Cosmic Brushes for example, right? They have a good price point, they have some nice colour stories, etc. This I'm not so sure of, and it's also not really a palette. It seems to be more like a Z palette and then you put in the shadows. Not that that's an issue, but I'm a bit weird like that. I like it made. I'm not great with Z palettes. That's just a me issue. It's grand. This is one of your like additional palettes that you'd add on with whatever matte palettes that you have. Maybe if you just want to have one palette that has all of your shimmers, this might be the one for you. But in addition to that, they also did this palette, which is called their Enchanted Romantasy. And they've basically said that they're reopening the brand. So I guess this is part of like their whole comeback. So honestly, like well done if that's the case. Like it's tricky. It's very, very tricky to have a brand these days because there's so much like competition. They went on to say, following the captivating allure of our our Shadow Daddy, or was it Daddy Shadow? Shadow Daddy palette. We now present a vision of pure, ethereal devotion. Behold! The Enchanted Romantasy palette. Quite frankly, I don't feel like enough brands say behold. And on that level alone, for that sheer whimsy, I'm here for it. And I will say they also give some swatches on this, so at least I can make a little bit more out of this. Do I have a date? No. Do I have a price? No. No. We can make it into a song. I've had, I'm on a corner of TikTok where everyone's talking about Zora Mamdani, and all that I have on in my mind is, the name is Mamdani, M-A-M-D-A-N-I, and I realise that's really weird for an Irish person who's originally from the west of Ireland, living in the southeast, to be that into American politics, but there you go. It's really, that's not the point, but you can tell I'm neurodivergent. Is essentially what's happening here. Yeah, this palette, I'm going to be honest, these sort of palettes, I've seen them many a time before. I don't necessarily have any issue with them. I've bought palettes like this many a time before. You see this a lot with indie brands, that they come out with whole palettes that are shimmers, multi-chromes, etc. I can think of several brands that have done that just off the top of my head. And it seems to be a decent moneymaker for them. But the way that I look at that is that it doesn't tend to be curated as carefully as a palette that has both mattes and shimmers, because the way that they're almost looking at this is, I like these tones, I put them together, rather than thinking about, I like these tones, this is how they would work together. You know, like a lot of these are very disparate colours, and yeah, there's kind of some grouped together, it's somewhat in colour stories, but sometimes with these sort of palettes, I have found that they're just like, I like these shades, figure it out from here. And it's like, oh, okay. And I think that when a brand is having to integrate both mattes and shimmers, etc., it leads to a lot more need for creativity and really trying to balance everything out. So for me right now, I personally wouldn't get a huge amount of use out of this. I don't think it's necessarily bad. I probably would have loved this a couple of years ago, but for me where I am right now, I don't need it. You know, and again, not knowing what the price tag is, it makes me a little bit concerned. Then we have, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Dua Lipa. You know, we can say pop star, right? Yeah, like she is a pop star. She's doing a skincare brand, and it's with Augustinus Bader, which is Augustinus Bader just putting a hit out, not a hit out, but a call out to celebrities and being like, would you like to do a brand with us? Because this isn't the only celebrity that's done stuff with Augustinus Bader. You might be familiar with Victoria Beckham, who has also used Augustinus Bader as part of her line as well. Anyway, this is Dua Lipa's new brand, and it's called Dua by AB. So when you're looking it up, it's Dua by AB, because there's another brand that's called Dua, and it's like Dua Beauty, and it's a different brand. It is different, right? So it's just skincare. There's just 3 products. That's what's launching. And I love that people are like, it's affordable. I'm like, I think we have really forgotten what affordable is. I get that everything is crazy expensive these days, but ooh, they're basically going, hey, we have the proprietary TFC5, which is just seems to be for this is it a sub brand? Because it sort of is, but it isn't either, because their normal thing that they talk about is TFC8, so now this is their TFC5, which is like, huh? I don't understand how you're what? I don't understand how this is done, because normally the bigger numbers are like further on in the trials, like, so why is this a smaller? I know that's not the point, but I'm just a bit confused by it. Anyways, they say it's designed for skin with minimal to moderate damage. It works by delivering gentle renewal signals to support the skin's natural barrier, improve long-term elasticity, and help maintain overall skin health. So it's basically targeted at a slightly younger demographic, which makes sense because Dua herself is quite young. And again, this is where I'm like, but you keep saying it's affordable. It's not affordable. The renewal cream, which I couldn't find a lot of information on, they were just like, it has TFC5. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm not going to buy it, in case you can tell. 50 millilitres of this renewal cream is €72. Right? I don't know about it. It's kind of reminding me, do you remember when Brad Pitt came out with his weird brand that had like wood on it? We never hear about that brand anymore, guys. What was that all about? It was like a celebrity's first skincare product, like baby's first or whatever. It's really weird. I don't know what. It's like back in the 2000s when every celebrity had a fragrance, but now it's like skincare and makeup, and not everyone needs to do it, is all I'm saying, you know? And €72, it's expensive. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't spend €72 on skincare because fuck me, I have. So I'm not going to pretend that I haven't. But I do it with brands that I know that have like that history and they're very open. Like I love Medicate, for example. I'll buy their stuff, no problem, for €72. Wouldn't even fucking question it, which is probably a bit unhealthy. But €72 for 50 mils is quite a bit. They then have their supercharged glow complex and you get 30 mils for €78. And the last thing that they have is the balancing cream cleanser. You get 125 mils for €38. Yeah, look, it's not for me. I don't really know what the story is. You can very clearly see it's linked with Augustinus Bader. Like even that gold and blue packaging is so Augustinus Bader that I find it quite, it's just like they've inverted it. That's all it is. Yeah, I'm not going to get it. I have no interest in it. And I think that maybe there comes a point that we don't need more celebrity brands. Maybe I think I might just be a bit whatever at this point. Maybe I need to go to bed. It's hard to know. But yeah, and there's something very satisfying about moving from such an expensive brand to Maybelline. So this is the Cloudtopia Cheek and Lip Mousse. Oh God, do you remember the Dream Matte Mousse foundation? Those of us who are a certain age, we remember, we have the battle scars. Basically, they're available right now. They come in 10 different shades. They're $9.99 each. They're over on Ulta Beauty right now. They say that you can achieve the ultimate blurred matte look with Cloudtopia Cheek and Lip Mousse. So it's basically a 2-for-1 sort of product, which I don't think is necessarily bad. This Air Light Mousse melts onto the skin to create a soft, focused, velvety finish that visibly blurs imperfections for flawless complexion. And obviously, to demonstrate that, they've got models who have no imperfections. Like, cool, thanks. I'd like to see it on real people. If we could manage that at all, I'd love that. Look, it's $9.99. I'm not going to get miffed about it. And I do think that Maybelline is actually a very, very good drugstore option. Not that there's many drugstore options now. Drugstore is also getting very, very expensive. I do notice though when you look at these, they're very red toned. You know, I would like to see them maybe expanding on this and having maybe like some purples, some lavenders, maybe some more neutral tone. But I mean, maybe this is like the first launch and they're going to see how it goes and see how it's received to determine then where they're going off with it. But when you look at them on the face, again, like I said, they are using like perfect models. But the tones of them look really, really pretty. They do look quite natural. Like I'm looking at a few of them and I'm like, okay, you know what? Not bad. Like Coral Illusion, beautiful. Very, very nice. Yeah, I'd kind of half think of getting a few of these. I do think though that some of them are a little bit similar in the way that they look on the face. So you didn't necessarily need to have those 10 because like I said, it's a very reddish, pinkish sort of a release. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I love a pink blush these days, but I think there was more diversity needed in these. Like even like that shade Toasted Sky, that's beautiful because it's so different to everything else that's in that line and it's such an interesting neutral sort of a blush. For $9.99, I just saying, I don't hate it, you know? And they do have like a purpley berry sort of a shade. It probably isn't as purpley as I might necessarily like it. I'd love to see a lavendery shade. Yeah, I think this is actually quite interesting. And because Maybelline is quite accessible across the world, like there's most countries will stock these sorts of things. It's not going to be particularly difficult to get. I would be very interested in giving it a swatch and seeing what it feels like. Because all my fingers can think of is like, do you remember the Dream Matte Mousse? And oh, I'm of the age where you didn't have beauty tools to put it on. You just smashed it on with your fingers like a little goblin, and it was amazing. What a time! I feel bad for kids these days. Now they're just in there contouring and bronzing, and they don't have the lines on their jaws. They don't have the makeup on the collar of their school shirt like the rest of us did. And I feel like they're missing a little bit of a rite of passage, essentially. So there's something about this that I'm kind of like, this is quite nostalgic. I don't hate this. I am also thinking about, you know, there's that content creator over on TikTok and she does a lot of, you know, when she's talking to her former self, it's like her current self and like her 2000 something self. And they're kind of like going, oh, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And she's normally using Maybelline. Maybelline have kind of copped that and they've given her a lot of products. So I wonder how quickly is she going to be using these in her videos. I cannot think of her name. Blonde hair. Anyways, that's not important. But for the price point, not bad. I don't hate it, and let's normalise getting people Christmas gifts that are this price, because you know, sometimes it's the thought that counts. We don't need to get people expensive things. Although, mind you, in my family, we don't do Christmas gifts anymore. We have a thing where it's like, oh, this has now become an obligation rather than me getting you something because I care about you. So we do just because gifts throughout the year. So that if I see something and I have money on me, I'll get it for my mum or for my dad. That's not, sorry, I'm very unfocused tonight. I have my students' graduation tomorrow, so I think I'm like a bit all over the place because it's going to be very and a lot of noise, and I get a little bit insert adjectives here. But yeah, I think it's a decent release. I have nothing negative to say about it other than I do hope that they will down the line start adding in some additional shades. We then have Simply Posh Cosmetics, and this is their new palette. It's called Gingerbread Bakery. As you're watching, it is available. I don't have any information on the price as I'm filming. And you know what, guys? You can find it out yourself. If you like it, you'll find it out. Normally they're about €60, so I would imagine it'll be somewhere along that. So there's 12 mattes and there's 6 duochrome shimmers, and what I think is quite interesting about this is it's essentially like there's 2 9-pan palettes together. You have your pastel over on the left hand side, and then you have your kind of neutral with a little pop of coral in there over on the right hand side. This is quite a nice palette for people, I think, who are a bit nervous of colour, you know, and we have seen a lot of palettes, particularly from mainstream brands over the last number of months, just giving little barely washes of colour but mostly neutral, and there's nothing wrong with that, absolutely nothing wrong with that. You know, there's obviously always a demographic for these sorts of things, but I've often said that one of my favourite things to see is when somebody uses neutral kind of eyeshadows and then puts in a really bold fun pop. It might be a pastel, it might be a neon, something that just twists it and makes it into something a lot more interesting. And for me, I don't think this is necessarily bad. I appreciate that they've kind of put it into columns where the colours somewhat go together, like you have a pink row and then you have like your brownie rows, but then there's like mixes of yellows and blues and greens and kind of more kind of pale oranges. The swatches look nice. Like, you know, you definitely have a duochrome in there. A duochrome or two, definitely, from the way that they've pictured it. I will say the issue around trying to picture duochromes, very difficult when you're just looking at a static image, but I feel like they've captured that quite well. This reminds me of something, and I cannot put my finger on it. I think kind of the pastel-y bit reminds me a little bit of back when Laura Lee Los Angeles had their brand, which has since closed. They did a collaboration with their niece, and it was called, I think, Candy Skies, and there's a couple of the tones in this that reminds me a little bit of it. I thought that was a beautiful palette at the time. I actually ended up buying it. I don't hate this. I think this is really, really nice. It's a really lovely introduction, I think, for people who are a bit nervous of colour, and you could have those lovely little bright colours, like maybe on the inside of the eye, or like, you know, fade it out into your skin to, you know, do something a little bit interesting, you know, blend it out with the kind of deeper colours, etc. Not the deeper colours, with the neutral colours. Sorry, I'm kind of distracted because I'm looking at it. I'm like, you know what, actually it's quite nice. Now, in saying all of that, I don't need it. I literally have stuff that I can dupe it with. But I think it's a really nice little twist, that little pastel colour. It's a nice Christmas palette without it being Christmas. Right, there's something about when I see Christmas palettes, and if they're so cliche, I kind of get a bit annoyed because I'm like, you haven't thought of this. You've just literally taken the first idea that came out of the shelf. And I appreciate the fact that I look at this and I do see bakery. I think of like little gingerbread cookies and like the little gumdrops and stuff. So this is nice. I don't dislike it. We then have Klarity Cosmetics, and we sneak peeked this a while ago. It was the outside of this palette called The Other Side. They've now shown the inside of it. I was at one point an affiliate with them, but I think something has gone wrong with their Shopify. So I won't get into what happened, but I was told that something occurred. So I don't have an affiliate code that works with them at the moment, but you know the drill, lads. If you can find something, get some money off. But I will say this is pretty nice. I think I read somewhere that it was like $49. I could be completely completely wrong. Yeah, $49. Jeez, that's, maybe I'm insane, but I think that's actually pretty darn good. As you're watching, it will be available, and it's a beautiful 12 pan palette for $49, so it's a little over $4 per shade, and I think that is actually quite good. We're looking at 6 mattes, 4 duochromes and 2 shimmers, and I just have a thing about greens and purples together. There's that sort of a greeny shade in there, and it's called Just a Whisper, and it's just that correct, nauseatingly sort of a green colour. Like, I really love that. The video they've also provided of the swatches shows just how shimmery and interesting it is. $49. That feels pretty darn good, I will say. I like this colour story. It's a little bit different. Now, I'm kind of surprised that this is coming out when it's coming out, because the title of the palette is The Other Side, and maybe I'm off here, but I would always associate that with, you know, death, you know, the other side. So I would have kind of associated that as being more of a Halloween palette, and maybe it was meant to be a Halloween palette, because they've done Halloween palettes in the past. Like, their Apocalypse palette was fucking gorgeous. I have it, it's beautiful. And I'm wondering if this was like a little bit late. And you know what? If it is, then fair enough. Like, grand. There's worse things that could happen. And even looking at this, I wouldn't kind of go, oh, it's particularly this season or that season. I just think it's a very nice colour story. There's some of those shades I wouldn't have necessarily put together. Like, there's this sort of like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a blue, but there's a bit of green in it as well, and also a bit of grey. It's really unusual. Like, it looks green in the pan. It's called Never to Return. That one looks really interesting when it's swatched. Obviously, it's on a deeper skin tone, so it'll swatch a little bit differently on, say, the likes of myself. And I wonder how much primer they've put on, because, like, say, even that shade Night Owl, that looks very fair in the pan, and then when it's swatched, it looks a lot deeper. So I'm interested. I'd like to know what the story is there. It looks really, really nice, but the way they've displayed it, I mean, kudos. It looks really nice. Oh my god, I did an actual double take on this one. This is Beauty Moon Cosmetics, and they've been around for a while now. They've just been tipping away. They do quite a bit now. I do kind of think sometimes they do too many launches. I get a little bit overwhelmed, which is why I don't talk about them all the time. But they're a solid brand. The owner, Tori, is very, very nice. She seems to have been building up a lovely community. She did a collaboration. The brand did a collaboration with the fabulous Wilma Finger, which is one of my prized possessions from this past year. I'm going to say this right now. I think this is the best palette that they've done. It's going to be limited edition, which I'm like, what? How dare you? I think this is really beautiful. So it's a 20 pan palette. There's mattes, there's 7 multichromes, and then there's 4 duochromes. And the brand always keeps their pricing down quite a bit. It's £39.99. It's going to be available Friday the 14th of November at 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Now, of course, there's lots of different codes that you can use to get money off, because, as I said, never ever pay full price. My lovely friend Jamie over on Makeup on Your Radar, she has a code. It's Radar15, so you'll get some money off and she'll earn a little commission. But Jesus Christ, that is such a beautiful colour story. Many fans of the brand have been telling me this, because I don't have much from the brand. I have bits that they have very kindly gifted me in PR, but I wouldn't have like their entire back catalogue. But I have been very reliably informed by many of you lovely, lovely people that every kind of launch seems to be a little bit better than the last in terms of the formula. So it seems that they're refining it. Now, there's no swatches yet. Curse you. But my god, I really love this colour story. I really, really do. Like that shade Winter Star, I'm hoping, maybe I'm being silly, I'm hoping that that's quite a transparent one, because if I could tap that on to say something like the shade Coal, oh, how beautiful would that be? I love the mixture of lights and mediums and deeps. I mean, honest to God, like no notes. This is really, really beautiful. There's so many fun colours in here. I'm all for this. I think I'm gonna say it right now. I think I might actually end up getting this. Beautiful. They've done really, really well. And I like purple tones. There's a lot of purple in here. I'm interested, because I haven't actually, sorry, bear with me. I don't have anything really with them that has a lot of purples. And purples are very hard to formulate, so I'll be very interested to see what the story is there. I really want to see some swatches. Oh, even that shade Nutmeg. I know that's like, it's a neutral shade, but there's a little bit of like a hint of like, like, I keep thinking of Glaminatrix's Tones of Turd, but it kind of is giving me a little bit of like diarrhea vibes, which is like, why would you want that on your face, Teresa? Look, issues, quite frankly. Like, oh, I like it. I do. I think they've done really, really well. So kudos to them is all I can say. We then have Byredo, and I have very little information on this. All I know is that it's called the Vesuvio eyeshadow palette, and it just makes me think of Vesuvius and, you know, Pompeii and all of the things around that, which was, by the way, a special interest of mine when I was a child. I still find it absolutely fascinating. I'd love to go to Pompeii at some point. That is not the point. Reel yourself back in, Teresa. Stick to the makeup, right? So this is an 18 colour eyeshadow palette, and all that Trend Mood says right now is that it's probably going to be $115 and it's coming sometime soon. There's no swatches. All we can see is the inside of the palette, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my god, who'd spend $115 on an eyeshadow palette? Because frankly, me, I've done it before and I'll do it again, right? And let's not judge me for it. I have a lovely personality at the end of the day. Is this the most interesting thing to me? No. However, I have friends who swear by their formula, who say it's absolutely fantastic. And you know what? I'm not going to yuck somebody else's yum, right? If you're looking at this and you're thinking, yeah, this is my palette of the year, I want to get this, I don't purchase much for myself, this is my sort of jam, then fucking go for it. Enjoy yourself, and I hope you have a wonderful time of it. Like, I can't judge because I've got the Asamea palettes and like they're mostly shimmers, so like, who am I to judge, right? I'm interested in this simply because I've heard people say it's good, and the people who say it's good are people that I trust. And I know that they wouldn't say it to me just for shits and giggles. So I'm like, okay, if I can find somewhere where I can shove my fingers into this, I'd think about it. It's not a definite. I'd like do some pros and cons. I have to get new windows and doors in my house. So Mama has a couple of expenses coming up. But yeah, it's not a bad one. But it'll be later discussed, I guess, or to be confirmed as to how exactly I feel about it. Because, you know, if I see the swatches and they're underwhelming, I'll be like, meh, whatever, which that is my right, quite frankly. And we have another sneak peek, and I don't have a lot of information for you on this, but I will do my absolute best. This is Melt Cosmetics and their limited edition collection of Edward Scissorhands. I mean, they do love going through Tim Burton's Extent collection going, what can we use of your IPs? So it was only a matter of time until we got an Edward Scissorhands. Thus far, what we know is definitely happening is a PR sort of box that they've sort of done before with the likes of Beetlejuice. And it looks interesting. Let us give them props for that. They display their products exceptionally well. From that, we know that there's definitely an eyeshadow palette, there's a blush, and there's a bag. And it looks like there's a few other things, but I don't know exactly what the story is. I'm going to discuss what I have actually seen from it. The eyeshadow palette, firstly, the shades make a huge amount of sense based upon the movie. Like, I get it. I get where all of those tones have actually come from. I will say, and I've said it many a time before, I don't love their eyeshadow formula. I just don't. It doesn't really speak to me, but I kind of get this. This reminds me a little bit of some of the more recent Narimi palettes that have come out. So I'd sooner get a Narimi palette to get that colour story. But I feel like a lot of people won't necessarily, and I don't think this is the best idea, I feel like a lot of people won't necessarily buy it to use it. It'll be more like, I love the franchise of Edward Scissorhands, which, you know, grand, fair enough. I like the movie. Not a fan of Johnny Depp, but that's my own issue. The bag, grand. Personally, I wouldn't be bothered, but the amount of brands that are doing fucking makeup bags, I'm like, how many makeup bags do we need? We don't need this many makeup bags unless you're storing all of your makeup all the time in a makeup bag and across several makeup bags. I don't understand it. We don't need that many makeup bags. It's not necessary. And then the blush actually makes a lot of sense. It reminds me of some of the blushes that the mother used to wear. You know, she was the Avon representative. Which is why I find that so funny. I'm like, oh my god, they're kind of using some of the stuff from that. And it makes sense. It makes sense. The packaging, let's give it to them. Like, it's amazing. I've bought quite a few Melt Cosmetics stuff on that basis. Right, I'm not going to sit here and be judging because I've done that. I still have like the Beetlejuice box up there. I thought it was amazing because I think I might be a cat, you know. I'm like, I like boxes. But I don't think I'll necessarily, like, initially when I saw this, I was like, oh, I want it. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, come on now, Teresa. Realistically, you don't love their eyeshadow formula. The other stuff I do actually quite like. Like, I love, you know, their eye gels. I love things like their brushes, their blushes, etc. I think almost if it didn't have an eyeshadow palette, I'd actually be like, yeah, I'm in on this. But because it has the eyeshadow palette that I wouldn't get any use out of. But then I'd feel that I'd need to keep, because I'm really weird of like, it all came together. Let's not separate the family. I've talked about this before. I have a tendency to ascribe human emotions to inanimate objects, and I get really upset about leaving things behind. It's a whole, I won't get into it, but like, it's the thing. Yeah, I mean, it'll do well. It'll do well. But I feel like Melt just haven't done enough to kind of keep up with innovations when it comes to things like eyeshadow formulas. Feel free to disagree with me. I know it's not essentially the most popular of opinions, but that's the way that I feel. And I'm not going to lie to you. The very last thing, and I'm so excited about this, is from Shellwe Makeup, and they are doing a new collaboration. Oh, a new collaboration, you say? Who could they possibly be collaborating with? Ghoul in Japan. Yeah, Ghoul in Japan, who did that amazing Light Moon palette with Neuricorn. You know that palette? That palette, yeah? Which is one of my top palettes, frankly, this year. I fucking love it. I love it so much. I got it for myself. I got it for my friend. I got it for a prize for one of my YouTube community members. I'm so excited. So this is the Nocturnal Flame collection. I'm really intrigued. I'm really intrigued to see what she comes up with, because I just think she has such an interesting style and a really good way of kind of putting things together. So I am for sure intrigued. I'm not going to say that I'm definitely going to get it, but I will be keeping my little eyeballs out for it. But that, my gorgeous friends, is it. We didn't have as many new releases, but just a lot of stuff to talk about in general anyways. I do have my favourite comment from last week's live, not from like the body of the live, but from the comments that came afterwards. This is from Rabbi Roz, which I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, or Rabbi Rose 3806, who said, catching you on the replay, I thought those 4 palettes for Halloween that might not have had IP licenses were from Unearthly, not Bella Beauté Bar, but I could always be wrong, and I agree Bella Beauté Bar is releasing too many expensive palettes. I passed on this one. The colour story isn't great, and the last couple of palettes they released were duping themselves. Yes, you are absolutely right. I did speak out of turn. I had thought that the palettes, the 4 palettes that had come out that were infringing on IP was Bella Beauté Bar, but it wasn't. You are absolutely right. It was Unearthly Cosmetics, and I just want to take another opportunity to say thank you so much to those who help to give me additional information and point out where I may have had some inaccuracies, because it's just very important that we're all kind of trying to keep somewhat on the correct side of things. So thank you so much. I really super appreciate it. But that, my gorgeous friends, is it. Thank you so much for watching. I am going to go off and play with some kittens and just smash my face into their little bellies. They're so cute. You know when they've eaten their food, then it's just like this little punch of like belly, and you're like, oh, you're so ridiculous. Anyways, do please like, comment and subscribe. I'm very off kilter today. Do please share, because sharing is caring. Except of course for STDs, in which case just wrap it up. Don't be gross. That's it. That's the end of the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.